A third of the world's population, a third, I think it's 7 billion, a third of that lives on, I think, 89% of the planet's coasts, the coastlands. And even some live on like ice sheets, so there's spread out. But the majority of the people of the world are either close or on the coasts of the United States. It's a known fact. And there's already more radiation than should ever be dumped in all different increments and different levels at different times. Plus, there was shaking, so you have all the sewage and sludge that could not be contained that got absorbed and dropped. This all occurred, and if you go as far back as the last 10 years, this is the coldest and intermittent cold it's ever been. Other than 25 years ago, something happened that was local, and 100 years ago, 125, there's similar ones. So somewhere between 130 years ago, there was a beginning of a thing called a cooling. The Maunder minimum, which is a solar activity thing that they discovered, and they named it after him, Maunder. So this thing happens every 400 years. We're in the midst of what constantly we were being force-fed, that we were in a global warming situation and we needed to divert billions of dollars to do this, this, and that, to do this, which made no sense because already at that point people were already questioning if there really was such a thing called global warming for real, but it might have been climate change, which is a different thing, which involves levels of thinking, because now you're talking about weather patterns, molten areas, glass being added into the atmosphere because of certain volcanic activity, and then you have the stars. Another comet is falling in. It's going to be coming around during my birthday. I'm very excited. Hopefully there'll be no clouds, man. You know, I've been beat up with the clouds and poor weather when some of these unbelievable, first time in a long time things that are happening in space now. So with space is acting strange, and the Earth is acting strange, well then maybe there's a correlation there. And then somebody named Maunder said, well, there's something wrong with the sun, too. And his Maunder minimum is coming. By 2020, there's going to be lack of food because nobody is taking seriously now before it occurs. And there's going to be an epic that's going to be strange because there's going to be extreme hots, extreme droughts, but inundations of cold and wet, lack of solar activity. So if this is what I'm seeing, and it's already showing that the proof is in the pudding, it's getting colder and more dramatically strange. This is called climate change. It's not global warming. And the billions of people that have been affected already, and the billions of dollars that were unfortunately misused, were not preparing for a global cooling or an upheaval of volcanic and earthquake activity. That is celestial climate change. It's multiple events happening simultaneously, all because of some event, which is the Earth and the Sun system experiences lack of solar energy, and the sun pushes back all day long. But there's areas that shrink in solar activity. So the space that the sun touches goes out 60 astronomical units past Pluto, which is approximately 60 astronomical units away from Earth. So the sun is touching there, and it shrunk, and it cooled, and it's even been lacking in solar energy where pockets of energy pop out and then it gets calm. The sun went through the least amount of sunspots ever in recorded history this past solar cycle, other than 20 years ago. So other than 100 years ago, the only other time the sun had no sunspots was this solar cycle and the last one. The sun is getting quiet. The earth is getting upheavaled. And there's an increase in space debris. This is facts. It's not warming, folks. We better know how to grow in the ground under the earth, because it's going to get so nuts. There's going to be hurricane winds with warm weather in like the middle of winter, but there's also going to be like sleet and hail and rain in areas that are supposed to be dry. Deserts just flowered in this century, specifically this last 10 years. There's been flowering in the last 5 years of all the deserts, the Sahara. The pictures are unbelievable. Switzerland going through a blizzard, but it was warm enough that the cows were out in these pictures. And this was April 19th, folks. It's now 50 degrees in May. We're going to have the strangest weather you've ever seen, folks. It's happening right now. You know? It's getting cold, folks. We got to get ready.